Good evening. Good evening, all of you. I feel like I've been running really fast all afternoon. I have been, I don't know, sometimes you make dumb decisions, but I knew that I was single parent for the next couple of days, and so I everything was going to be fine. I told Dad, I said, "Well, I've got to drop him off at 6. He's got to be there at 5:45. It'll be time to get here. They get done at 7:30, so I'm just going to leave as soon as it's over." We got a text message today said they're going to be done at 7:15 instead of 7:30. So if you hear any tires peeling, that'll be me wheeling out there. But Mary had told me, she's like, "Just go, y'all get something to eat for lunch or for supper." So I said, "Well, what would you like?" And he said, "I would like some cane." So we went to Nicholasville. So I've driven to Nicholasville. I just too much driving, too much all of this. I don't mind driving, though. I don't know how you all feel about driving. I don't think I could be a truck driver. I don't like that part of it. But to me, if you give me an opportunity, I can drive 2-3 hours. It doesn't bother me. I'll go tonight if you want to go. But it seems only fitting then that we are going to be talking about wisdom, because nothing I've said in the last 5 minutes has made any sense when it comes to wisdom. Most of you all are probably discerning that I am lacking in wisdom in all of that. So that's kind of where we are here this evening. But when we get done, I'm going to leave and go and pick Will up. So that's the situation here this evening. But we're talking about, yes. There's no time. There's no time for comments. All right, we got to go quick. So. No. No time for any of this. Be turning to 1 Kings. That's where we're going to be here this evening. We're going to jump around a few things though beforehand, but we'll be talking about wisdom here this evening. So let's start. First of all, with what we've looked at over the last few times, wisdom in the Old Testament. We tried to update this. That didn't show up as well as I hope, but otherwise, you can see here in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 6, "Therefore be careful to observe them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples who will hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people." 1 Kings 3 and verse 9, "Therefore give to your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours?" And that'll be the focus of where we are in our class this evening. Proverbs 2, verses 3 through 5. "Yes, if you cry out for discernment and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God." You'll see the word discernment here. Wisdom and discernment, basically the same thing here. Proverbs 18 and 15. "The heart of the prudent acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge." Go to the New Testament, a few verses here. Matthew 10 and 16. "Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." That was an intriguing verse you may be familiar with when you got to go out into the into the rough parts, into the toughness of the world. You got to be wise in what you're doing. Hebrews 4 and verse 12, "Than any two-edged sword, piercing and of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts of the heart." James 1 and verse 5, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him." And the last one there, Revelation chapter 17 and verse 9, "Here's the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits." That's the last time we see the word wisdom in the New Testament. So we have a few different examples there, but we're going to focus tonight on the wisdom of Solomon, the wisdom of Solomon, and specifically probably the most famous example of wisdom within of Solomon. This will be in 1 Kings, as we said, chapter 3. We're looking at a few different things here. First of all, we're going to go real quick through the first 4, and then we'll focus more on the 5th one. You can see God gives Solomon wisdom, Solomon's sacrifice, God's offer and Solomon's response, God's promise to Solomon, And then the test is what we're looking at. This is a picture called the Judgment of Solomon. I think it's 1509 is the date on this, which is incredibly old. I really like old. I was like old, but 14, 15, 1600s art is like a thing that sort of have a passion is not the right word, but an interest in right there. But tonight we'll be looking at this. So we've got a few verses that we're going to read. So if you're in 1 Kings chapter 3, that's the entirety of where we'll be. We got a handful of verses that we'll read, and then especially the latter verses, we've got questions that we're going to think about as well. This may be a story tonight that you're familiar with. It may not be something that you are familiar with, but either way, hopefully we'll take something from this here as we go. To start with, though, let's look here at just verse 1. Now, Melvina, do you care to read 1 Kings 3, just verse 1 here? So this is the first verse, and this is really a political verse, is what it is. This is a common theme that you see within heads of state, that you would join people together in matrimony. What would be the purpose of? I feel like I asked this question a while, but not that long ago. What's the purpose of country A's son marrying country B's daughter? What are we doing this for? Okay, absolutely. There you go. It helps strengthen the. So you have an ally, and it allows you to sort of tighten that ally, or maybe strengthen the country. Sometimes, if you were the weaker and they were the stronger, it provided an opportunity for you to be able to at least be together. Absolutely. So we see here we've got this marriage, and he takes her then to the city of David. And when we say city of David, what are we talking about? Jerusalem. And now this was permitted. I really had no concept of this. I was kind of reading up and studying on this a little bit as I was preparing this. But this was permitted under the law of Moses. You could marry somebody and bring somebody in. But it was, the way I almost read it is it's kind of frowned upon. So I want you to answer the question for me. Why might it have been frowned upon for Solomon to bring the Pharaoh or the king or the ruler of Egypt's daughter into the city of Jerusalem? Why do you think that people might, it's not illegal, but why do you think people might have looked at this and thought, this doesn't seem like a great idea? It's completely different religion. So, there's no commonality there religiously. You're sort of opening the door, allowing access to theoretically a friend, but it might actually be an enemy, and there's a problem with the potential problem with that.
Most of the religious upbringing you're going to have in your household is going to be from the women.
Sure.
Because typically, especially back then, the women are the ones home with you all day. They're the ones that raise you. They're the ones that make sure you go to church. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that drag the men along with them.
Sometimes, yeah. What would ultimately end up being Solomon's downfall? We may know this. This is not tonight's lesson, but what was Solomon's downfall? All his wives, and in particular, wives. What kind of wives? The foreign wives, the ones that were had no connection to his religion at all. Okay, let's go a little bit further then. 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 2 and 4. Jill, do you care to read this one? So a couple of things here for us to think about. First of all, we read there, people sacrificed at the high places because there was no house built for the name of the Lord. Do you remember when Jesus spoke with the Samaritan woman at the well? And one of the things that she talked about with Jesus is she said that some people say, our people go and worship up on a high mountain. And she said, you say that the Jews say that you need to go into the city of Jerusalem and worship at the temple. Do you remember what Jesus said to her? And so they kind of get bogged down a little bit on the ceremony of it, as it were. Why do you think they worshiped in a high place in a mountain? Why would people maybe do that? Closer to God. It's a figurative type thing. Dad, I know you've done a lot of hiking. Some of you all may have done hiking as well. But when you're sort of up at the top of the mountain, sometimes we feel like, you say something along the It was. And so you got that. But then the temple was built, of course, based on what we see here. There's no temple that was built at the time, but the temple was built, and then people started to go worship there. So this is just kind of a little dropping in of what it was like for worship at the time. When the temple was built, sacrifice was then centralized in the temple. And that's where you went. When we say sacrifice, what do people pay for sacrifice? Animals, you took lambs, right? You take doves. This ended up being part of the problem that Jesus got worked up about at the temple, right? Because when you went to the temple, if you didn't have anything, what did you do? You could buy it. It cost you, right? This lamb costs $5, but it costs $5 plus what? A little extra, right? A little interest. So you're pocketing that. They make a little money on the side of that. And so that was one of the things that Jesus was upset about. We read about him turning over the tables or whatever. Sure, absolutely. All sorts of it was a very sacrificial offering religion, whatever word you want to use for that. So Solomon here we read offers 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. Think about that for a second. If we stop right now and I said, I want you to count to 1,000, how long would it take? Take a little while, right? If I were to tell you to do 1,000 things today, how long would it take? We've all uttered that sentence, I have 1,000 things to do. And we've all said that, right? And we wrote it down in 6 things, right? But we know there's a lot of stuff that we're busy on. We're doing all of these things. Well, what about 1,000 burnt offerings? That's a lot. So why would somebody give or offer 1,000 burnt offerings? More is better. Because who would be able to give 1,000 burnt offerings? You have to have money or wealth to be able to do it, whatever it would be. I would love to give the church $1,000. What's keeping me from doing it? Probably don't have it, I would love to be able to go on 1,000 trips, but what's keeping me from doing it? Can't afford it. It'd be nice to be able to do it, right? Well, guess who has the money, who has the ability for it? Solomon. In fact, Solomon will ask, when he will ask for wisdom, what does it seem like? Well, I'm getting that for something. We'll talk about that here in a minute, here in just a little bit. But he was doing this as a way to glorify God. Right? Let's go a little further than this. Is First Kings 3, verses 5 through 9.
Before I read it, I want to say one thing. It's about him going to those different places and open sacrifice. See, that's what people decide. They don't just a little bit. Instead of doing like he had all the resources for him. Even though the temple wasn't there, he still could have sacrificed it. But he chose instead that he would give. And that was just it seemed that way.
Right.
Finally, later on, we'll find out that Jeroboam, he calls people to the places that he won't go to. And so calls.
Absolutely.
Sometimes stuff they don't start out so
right. This is 1 Kings 3, 5 through 9.
Give me the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, ask, what shall I give you? And Solomon said, you have shown great mercy to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you in truth and righteousness and uprightness upon the you. You have continued this great kindness for him, and you have given him a son to sit on his throne, and he is this day. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king, said my father David, but I am a little child. I do not know how to go out and come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, great people, too numerous to be known or counted. understanding heart to judge the people, that I discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people?
All right. So we read here in this handful of verses that this is almost like the perfect situation, right? God appears to Solomon, and in a sense, he says, "What do you want?" And all of us have probably had that thought before. It would be really nice. Think about that for a second. If you had that, you had the one wish, what are you wishing for, right? Well, that was a lot of doors, right? We're probably thinking, there's probably something that we might physically want, something that we desire. There may be better health that we might desire. We might wish for a certain amount of money or something like that. What does Solomon, though, ask for? He asks for wisdom. Probably, if we're being honest, where would wisdom rank on our list of things that we would ask in this situation? Probably a little lower, right? Why would we probably put wisdom 8, 9, 10? Well, why are we putting things in front of wisdom? We do. Right now, I can think of several things that would benefit me if I had them, right? You could probably think of the same kind of thing. But Solomon's thinking here, right? He says, give me wisdom. Wisdom for what reason? To discern between good and evil. Solomon's got a really difficult job ahead of him, right? He is the head of the king of Israel, as it were. He's in charge of God's chosen people. And as somebody who has had a couple of lost jobs over the years, there are some things that come to you in your life. What do about this, right? That's the hard stuff, right? Yes, it'd be a lot easier if I didn't have to make these decisions. Well, that's what he's faced with. And so Solomon says that Solomon asks for wisdom in this. He asks for an understanding heart. You know anybody that you would describe as having an understanding heart? You know anybody who you would describe as not having an understanding heart? Yeah, you might. We don't have to point anybody out. Right? We don't have to actually point. That's all I need. I'm flashing back there. But we know sometimes people don't have that, right? Well, it seems like that this is something that might have to be worked for. I mean, if Solomon was asking for it, that probably says he's not born with it right there. It's sort of to work for that. There are some people that seem to lack understanding. Sometimes when people get into a position where here they go up to here, all the things that they wish the boss had done when they were down here, they completely forgot about it when they get up here to the top, right? Solomon is going to be facing a situation where he is going to be in charge, and what he can easily do is he can walk over to you and say, do it right, or we'll put you to do. That's the leadership way, right? And then what are you going to do? You going to do it right? Well, probably do it right. Why do it right? Because you want to do it right here. Out of fear. Solomon said he asked for an understanding heart so that he would be able to discern, so that he would be able to make wise decisions, wise judgments based on whatever came before him. And who knows what is going to come before him in these situations? Pause.
Well, I think it shows he already had a whole lot of this. Because he would have not understood the thing that was put before him, his kingship. And I think it shows he's very wise, young age.
Yeah.
And it's all.
It's probably a fair thing to say. All right, so let's go a little further. So God then is going to respond to Solomon. Solomon makes his request, and God makes the follow. Do you hear this is 1 Kings 3, verses 10 through 15. want you to look at verse 11 there in your Bible. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 11. Four things that are listed right there. These are probably four things that we would have asked for. We absolutely, if we're being honest with ourselves, we would have looked at verse 11 and says the greatest verse in the Bible. Well, that's what I want right now. The first one. He said, because you have asked for wisdom and have not asked for a long life for yourself. That's probably the first thing that we probably would ask for, right? I want to live so I can get everything done, whatever that might be. So he said, you didn't ask for a long life, nor have you asked for riches for yourself. Well, that's probably what we ask second. Well, how you going to live forever? But it should be nice to live comfortably while I'm here, right? And so we just said, hey, give me all of these riches. The third thing, nor have you asked for the life of your enemies. And we probably would have said that, maybe not asked to have them killed, but we said all these people, I can't stand what would be nice if they didn't work here anymore, right? It'd be nice if they could treat good people right now. There's only one. Of course, she ain't here, right? We would probably think that, right? Get rid of these people that are aggravating, that are bothering me, whatever the term might be. But instead, ask for yourself understanding to discern justice. What do you get in response? He got all of that kind of stuff. So what's the lesson for us in that? This is not really the lesson, but what's the lesson for us in that handful of verses right there? When we pray, when we're asking for the wrong thing. Don't ask for all of that stuff. Well, we get kind of wrapped up in it, right? Lord, please let this happen. You know, it's like a sample. Check, let this and let this. But what we should, when we're told, we're talking about the law of prayer in a few weeks in the sermon that we're working on right now. But when we're told that the law of prayer, we're told, nevertheless, not mine. Whatever thy will be. And sometimes we don't really pray that way, right? We don't really ask that way. Solomon said, I'm not ask for these things. And God responds by saying, I'm really happy that you did ask for this. You talked last week about when Paul said that countless 3 different times he asked for the thorn in his flesh, whatever it was, to be removed. And God said, my grace is sufficient for you, right? You might have to work your way through it. How many times we pray, boy, it'd be nice if that person beside me at work just wasn't there anymore. What should we ought we be praying about that? Lord, help me to work with this person. Help me to be a good example for this person. And it may not work. And it might be working in ways that aren't exactly obvious to us. Well, that's an example. All right. So let's get into Solomon's thing. In a sense, I have no idea how the timeline is in the scriptures, but this comes right after. And so it's like, all right, well, you think you can do this? Let's go out here and take the test. I've told this story before. I think that the first day that I was an assistant principal at Garrett Council, they called me down to the office, my very first day. And they sent me there with the secretary, and they said, we got $15,000 that we're going to spend on decorations at the school. And we're going to let you do it. This greatest job I have ever had. $15,000. You drive past Garrett County, they've got things on the windows. It's really nice. It looks really good. The middle school now has something called most elementary secondary has some out here as well. They said you can buy this stuff until the woman that said, "Oh my goodness, this is the greatest job ever." The next day we had 3 people fighting. I tried to bring it up and all that. It went downhill shortly after that. But when Solomon asks for judgment, it's almost like God says, "Well, you know what? You get it. Solve this one." And that's what we're going to look at. So 1 Kings chapter 3, this is verse 16 through 21. We still need to be careful to read this. 16 through 21. a lifetime movie going on right here, right? So you go in there, you can see, this is the story that they come up with. This is what they're saying. So the first question, where did the two women who came to Solomon for judgment, where did they live? The same house, all right? So we got internal squabbles here in the house. Nothing better than people in the house arguing, right? That's always the best. We all love that. Y'all don't think about that. Y'all probably never had to argue with anybody in the house ever in your whole life, right there. But we got two women who dwell in the same house. And what has occurred to each of these women just 3 days apart? They gave birth. Right? So we had two pregnant women in the house, and over a 3-day period, they both given birth. Just remember the glory days and watch everything was perfect, love, everything was going swimming all the way. So we got two people that have given birth right here. As the first woman spoke to Solomon, what did she say happened to the other woman's child? She says, the child died. Okay? And I think the question is, why did they say that the child died? She was playing on it. She was smothering it. And that's a horrible thing to think about. But I don't know why that's what happens when it is. But that's what we have there with them. So they go to Solomon. Why do you think they went to Solomon for this? Why are they bringing this issue to Solomon? This is very much a legal matter. There's a lot of legalities within here. Right? Why did the child die? If any of these things had happened in our country today, it would still go before a judge. It would be go before some kind of court system that would have to handle, make a decision based on it. Now, what did the other woman do in verse 20 after the first woman said that the other woman's child died? So, right, a little trade-off there. She took the child that was dead, placed it there. She took the one that was living and brought it here. Now, this is kind of a tricky move. Why would somebody do this? Why would you do this?
Especially a woman, a prostitute, not being married or anything. The child was alive.
Right.
You want to take care of you when you get old. That's when you want to go out and work and bring the money into the house and all that stuff like that.
Right. Oh, you still think, you see things like periodically this kind of stuff still happens from time to time. So this seems like a move that for most of us would think this was really strange. Do you feel like they would recognize the difference, right? You feel like, well, I know what my kid looks like, and I know what this kid looks like. How many of you have ever stood in that window at the hospital where there's like 20 babies over there? You know, there's always that one that's real big, feet are hanging off the edge, you'll be 7 foot tall. Yeah, you know which one that is. There's that one that's got more hair, it's like he's got an afro, he's got so much hair. But the rest of them all kind of have, but they all look about the same, right? Not too much difference between them right there. So the idea here is, well, they'll never know the difference. Now, the reality is, we know the difference. We know the difference. And I feel like that nobody's going to know the difference more than mom is, right? Because mom's going to recognize it more than anyone. Now, if you have a crooked twin, put the hands on one, nobody knows the difference. I don't know how you figure out that kind of thing. But she said, no, they took this woman with the baby. So when the first woman determined in the morning when she examined the dead child by her side, this is not my child. And so now we've got the situation of who does this child belong to? Who had done wrong? And so this is what Solomon signed up for, right? He gets to solve this issue. And I would imagine that if you're Solomon, put yourself in Solomon's shoes right now. Think about how do we solve this problem? It's kind of tough. Today, 2022, we probably should have DNA testing. We'd be able to figure this out pretty quickly. DNA was, they figured that out in 1950. So Solomon didn't have anything like that. How do you figure it out? What are we doing? How are we solving this problem?
God set it up for Moses that he would have all these different chiefs that would go to other stuff. The difficult stuff got passed up to him. They were learning to keep their.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. So Solomon is Here, like, then you couldn't say that he's earned his keep. Right, Jimmy, you here to read here, verses 22 to 25.
The other one said, hey, the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, no, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they speak before the king. This is king to the one that this is my son that liveth, and my son is the dead. And others last name, but the son is the dead, and my son is the living. And the king said, bring me a sword, and laid right a sword for the king. And King David divided the living child and two gave half to one and half to the other.
Now, the hardest thing about making judgment decisions in a situation like this is both sides are going to argue as hard as they can. Solomon gets a little bit of that in the first couple of verses. The other one said, no, but the living one is my son, and the dead one is your son. The first one said, no, but the dead one is your son, and the living one is my son. I've heard these same kind of arguments in my job from time to time, and you just want to say, stop. Okay? Because being louder doesn't make it right. But that's what we almost always go to. I will win this argument if I am louder than you are. Right? And so Solomon says, stop. He brings up a plan to resolve this. Now, one woman said, verse 22, she said, no, it's my child. The other one said, no, it's my child. They argued back and forth. Solomon said, bring me a wife. It's a really odd thing to ask for, right? Not bring me a witness. He didn't say, bring me somebody else who you would know. Bring me the father so we can maybe see what it looks like. He didn't say, let me look at this. Let's pluck a hair out of one of the. Now that seems like an odd thing to ask for in this situation. But what was Solomon's command here, as you read in verse 25? He's going to cut the baby in half. Right down the middle, right? What is it? Cut it right down the middle. Now let's probably think about it. Bad plan here, right? Why would we maybe think this is a bad plan? It's going to kill the baby, right? And it ain't going to be left with nothing. If you have anything wrong, I mean, he was maybe the Psalm said, bring me the sword. That's right. He finds out the truth here as a result. So verses 26 through 28, then you never read this.
Then the woman whose son was living spoke to the king, for she yearned with compassion for her son, and she said, O my Lord, give her the living child, and by no means kill him. But the other said, let him be neither mine nor yours, but divine. So the king answered and said, give the first woman the living child, and by no means kill him, she is his mother. And all Israel heard the judgment which the king had rendered. And they feared the king, for they saw that wisdom of God was in him to administer justice.
Okay. So when we look at this here, Solomon said, bring out the sword, right? Cutting in half. And the mother of the living child said, what in this situation? She said, let her have the child, right? That's what she said. We're not going to. What else? Right. That's a harsh problem back there. But why did it not matter as much to the second one as the first one? She already lost. And it didn't belong to her, and she's not really out anything with this second child either way, no matter what the decision would be right there. And so Solomon says, all right, I've heard you. Not necessarily the arguments, wasn't the loud arguments that solved this for Solomon. Now, what was the argument? What solved this for Solomon? The kindness of how will they react to this difficult challenge that's put before them? That's what the solution is. And Solomon said what? He realized right then, biblical logic, right? He realized the kindness in the woman's heart. He realized that she said, I would rather be without than this child had to suffer. And then the woman could not go out. As a result of this judgment, how does Israel respond in verse 28? Why do you think this why would Israel fear Solomon? And just, I don't know, fear is a word that we use different today. Fear, the way that we use the word fear today is like a, scared movie, scared. Kind of thing. It's a better word is respect right there. They recognize the power of Solomon right there. Why did this decision move the people so much?
When you have a leader, you want to have one that's smart, wise, make good decisions, make it fast. And that would inspire you rather than a leader at the end.
Right, yes. But you said, look. This is not, the reason I said, why does it seem weird that he said call for a sword? None of us would have said that, right? We all come up there, I can think of 100 things I called for a sword. But Solomon's thinking was on a little bit higher plane than what ours is. Solomon's thinking was mirroring he was mirroring knowledge right there. I don't know that we're going to be faced with these kinds of difficult challenges. But how many tough decisions have we had to make over our lives? A lot of them. And sometimes they involve other people, and sometimes they don't. But the lesson for us, a couple of things. He didn't judge by sight, but rather according to the wisdom which the Lord had endowed him with. I judge by sight for a second. I look at both of those women and say, you're too loud, you're not loud enough, or I said, this kid looks like he's a little darker, like you're too light. That's how I would do we do that? Do we make our judgments based on sight, on simple things? He looks guilty. How many of you have said that? On somebody's face up on the news, boy, he looks guilty. We do. We make those kinds of anything. We make those judgments. Solomon didn't really know we have perfection all the time. So the question is for us. I don't know that we can answer these, but I want to take these with us here as we go. In times of decision, what do you do? Times of decision, what do we do?
Pray and trust in God.
Praying and trusting God when He will guide our direction. How do we make choices? We got to use the wisdom that we have. Seek out others in this kind of situation. Solomon described as the wisest person ever in the United States. But who's the Solomon in our lives? Okay, I don't mean God in the sense, so that's what the answer to the first one. But who's the Solomon that who's the person that I trust will give me good information when I can make a really tough decision? You got those people, right? It may be a spouse, it may be a child, it may be a co-worker, it may be a friend, somebody that's there. But the discerning heart is going to seek out that help, that information to make that choice. What do you do when difficult matters come before you? Tell me, what we're going to eat for supper tonight, it's not a difficult matter. We may fuss about it, but it's not a difficult matter. But there's difficult matters that will come before us. What do we do in those situations? How do we make those tough decisions?
I think there's a period of contemplation and tough decisions that you have. You have to maybe need some alone time, maybe need some prayer time. You need to get your head. You can't make a difficult decision if you're ultimately involved or something like that. There's a lot more to consider than you're doing 47,000 different things at once. So you're stuck in your head. It's a lot harder to track it.
You've maybe been offered a new job. And how many of you in this situation maybe uttered something like, let me sleep on it? You ever had that kind of thing? What are we saying right there? I can't think of it while you're sitting here saying, because you convinced me of something just like that, right? I'll be ready to take it. But sometimes when you go home and you bounce that idea on somebody, they ask you all the hard questions. That's why I go slow and sometimes can't stand on it. So anytime those things come up, I tell her, and I go home and I immediately say, this is what's going to happen. She's going to do this. Well, this is what's actually going to happen. I used to tell her, she used to work for the audit office. You're such an auditor. Ask these questions. Look, can't you just let anybody in? She's never been wrong about it. Because she said, make those decisions. But let's think about the difficult question. When we make our decisions, we have to think about the results of them. How many bad decisions have been made over time that had horrendous results? Paper will allow things down there. But we have to think as we go forward. Do we judge by sight or do we play favorites? We did. Sometimes we did. As a school teacher, I can safely tell you this. I guarantee that the kids weren't guilty of something. But things always good in my room. 168 hours a week, and I can follow. But 168 hours a day, we do 4 on the church. Habits. We're faced with a whole lot of difficulties when we read it. Solomon made wise when not because he was wise. Solomon had the humility, he humbled himself before God, and he said from the get-go, you help me in a way that was written with me. Where he said, he passed up on all the things that probably would have took. And he said, Lord, give me wisdom to make difficult decisions, to judge. He said, I don't know if you could have been faced with a hard decision. First, number one. But every decision that came, I feel like everyone after that has been a lot easier than the first one. But we still cite this story even today. The paintings that were made 500 years ago, but hopefully more than 4,500 years, whatever, after the fact, that still celebrated this decision. So the lesson for us, the wisdom for us, is we can't make all the right decisions. That's impossible. But we use the wisdom that we have to help guide the decision making.
There's a man in that same woman come out working on the phone. And he just looked and she was, you could just tell she was right on the earth. And,
Yeah.
and she told me she hadn't slept in 4 nights because the aliens were coming through her phone line. She cried. She's going to go in there and get some money. I couldn't come up with that. Sometimes more business
Any other thoughts?